Hello and welcome to Lisa Horton Crafts. Dawn with you here, part of Lisa's design team, and today we're going to be making this beautiful twisted pop-out panel card, and it is exactly what I've just said it is. It's a twisted pop-out panel card. Panels popping out and you'll see it twists as I open it. Okay, very clever little mechanism, very easy to do, a little bit fiddly but well worth it I think. And I think it's just something a little bit different to give to somebody special. So let's just run through what I'm going to be using today. I'm going to be using the Essential Words stamp and die set. I'm using the Just For You, which you can see is one stamp here, but I've split it. And I've matted and layered it onto a piece of contrasting card, same card that I've used all the way through the rest of the card. So I'm using the same sentiment today. I'm also using one of the fabulous 3D embossing folders. This one's the DITSY Florals, and I just think this is such a beautiful folder because you don't have to use it in its entirety. You don't have to use any of them in their entirety, to be honest, but this one in particular just lends itself to being split and being cut up. I'm also using some of Lisa's Dots and Spots. This is the pastel collection, one of my most favourite collections. It's a 6x6 pad, still plenty in stock. You get 24 double-sided sheets, so you get a smaller dot on one side and a larger on the other, and the 6 colours, 4 of each colour. So perfect for your card making. And then I'm also going to be using the fabulous self-adhesive sentiments. I'm using this one, Be Bright, Be Happy, Be You, but I'm actually cutting it up, but I'll show you that shortly. So I'm using those. Okay, so let's make a start. First off, you're going to need your cardstock to actually make the card base. So you'll need a piece of card that's 11 by 4 1/4. This is going to make your base card. Then you'll need a piece of card 11 by 3 3/4. This is going to make your panels for the middle. And then this tiny piece of card here, which is 8 by 3, is going to make your mechanism. Okay, so let me get my scoreboard. Okay, so we're scoring this down the middle. So my piece of card is 11 inches. I'm going to score it at 5.5. This is going to form the base of my card. So I'm just going to fold and burnish that piece of card. So on the 11 by 3 3/4 piece of card, what you need to do is score it at 2 3/4, 5.5, and 8.25. And that gives you your 4 panels that form your panel across the middle. Okay, and then we're going to valley fold the first piece and burnish it. Then we're going to mountain fold the second piece and then valley fold the third piece. So that when you open it out, that's your pop out part of your card. These 2 pieces are going to stick to your mechanism and this piece is going to pop out forward. Okay, so just put that to one side. Now then, this is the tricky bit really. Easy but tricky. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to make a little mark at 2.5 inches at the top here, and 2.5 inches on the other diagonal, and then we're going to measure 2.5 from this end, so 1, 2.5, so at 5.5, and we're just going to make a tiny mark there, and the same here, 1, 2.5, 5.5. Okay, and those marks are what you're going to use on when you're doing your scoring in a second. Right, so our first score mark is at 4 inches, and we're going to turn it round. It's 3 inches wide, so we're scoring it at 1.5. Okay, now what we're going to do is score diagonally between these pencil lines here. So you've got a cross in the middle here, like that. All right. Now I don't think I need that again, so I'm just going to move that out of the way. So before we go any further, I'm just going to rub off those pencil marks, because you don't want to be able to see those on your finished card. Okay, now then I'm going to make this first because it's not the easiest thing to do. Okay, so what you need to do is you're going to push this upwards, okay, but you're going to push this downwards, and like that, and you will then end up with your mechanism for inside your card. All right, now you don't need to do anything else with this other than make sure all your crease lines are well burnished, because this is going to make your mechanism for your inside of your card. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to decorate the front and back and insides of our base card. Then we can put our mechanism in, and then we can put that to one side because that needs to dry properly. Okay, so to decorate the card, you're going to be using 4 pieces of cardstock. So this cardstock measures 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And then you'll also need 4 pieces of designer paper, which measure 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Now you can see I've already gone ahead and added my papers to my cardstock. So now I'm just going to add these to my base card. So I take my glue. Now I'm going to add all 4 pieces to my base card. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that for you now. So that's our base card made. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pop the mechanism in the middle, because we want to make sure that it's 100% dry before we add our panels to it. And if we do that now, it'll give us a chance to decorate our panels. So what we're going to do is this mechanism is going here, and you want to make sure that your mechanism actually meets the middle of your card. Okay, so you want it as close to the middle as you can get it. And you're going to put glue on one side, just on the triangle part. You're not going to put glue anywhere else because you want the rest to be free moving. So that's going on the base card here. Now you want it as near to the middle as you can get it, and you want it as close to the middle of the card as you can get it. So just going to pop my card closed so that I can see that it's more or less in the middle. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add our glue to the other triangle here. Use plenty because you want this to stick. You don't want this to come away from the card, otherwise your mechanism won't work properly. And then we're going to shut the top of the card down on the base card. Now I would leave that to one side for quite a while. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it to one side, and I'm going to pop my full heavy water bottle on the top just to keep it in place, because I want to make sure that is 100% glued. Alright, now we're going to make the panel part of our card, and for this you're going to need 4 pieces of cardstock. These are 3 5/8 by 2 5/8, and 4 pieces of white card, which are 3 1/2 by 2 1/2. Now I'm putting one of those pieces of card to one side, that white card, because I'm not going to emboss that. What I am going to do is emboss these 3 pieces. So I'll just put that to one side for the time being. Now then, I'm going to use the DITSY Florals embossing folder, as I said, and I'm going to add ink to the deboss side of the folder. So I'm adding my ink to this side. You can see I've already written a little D and a little E so that I know which side I'm using. Alright, so I'm adding my ink to this side. Now I'm using a brayer to add my ink because I think it's the easiest way to add ink to your folder, because you don't want ink in the flowers. You want the flowers to remain white. So your ink is just going to sit on the background part of this folder. Alright, so I'll put my ink on my brayer and I'm just going to run my ink over my embossing folder. Now I think you can see that the flowers are sort of staying white, sitting proud if you like, and they've not got any colour on them, which is exactly what I wanted. I am just going to go over and do a little bit more ink because I want this yellow to sort of stand out a little bit. And one thing with yellow is it can tend to sort of fade into the background. So I'm just doing another layer on there like that. And then I can put that ink pad to one side. Now I'm going to place my card down on the embossed side of the folder, because when you put this down on the embossed side is going to push the flowers through. So it's going to push and fit into where those flowers are here, and all you're going to get left with is the yellow that you've put into the background. So I just place my card down there. Now obviously I can't move this part of my folder, so I'm going to move this part. Just make sure that your card is all within the embossed part, and then lift this over onto your card and then run this through your die cutting machine, which I'm just going to do off camera. So now I'm going to lift this off here, and there you go, there's your embossed card. Now the yellow doesn't look very prominent on here at the moment, but as it dries that colour will deepen, so don't worry about it too much. So I would just take them out, leave them to one side for the ink to dry, and then put them onto your pieces of cardstock. Now I've cheated a little bit and I've actually already done mine. So I've got my 3 panels which are inked and my 1 panel which is just plain card. That's obviously where you're going to write your sentiment. So now I can add these to my panel part of my card. I'm just move these out of the way. I'm going to use those on another card in the future, so they're not going to get wasted. Now then, choice is yours as to whether you want to follow the pattern through or not. You can if you want, you don't have to. As I've already said, I think these stand alone beautifully. I don't think they have to follow on. You can if you want, you don't have to. And then that panel there is just going to be where you put your sentiment. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my glue to those and stick those down to my panel part of my card. So those are our 4 panels attached to our pop-out part of our card. Now then, before we go to our mechanism, I'm just going to add my little extra pieces on here. Now this is the sentiment that I showed you at the beginning, the be bright, be happy, be you. And all I've done is just cut it either side of the little comma. You'll see here, I'm going to take this out of here just in case it's a bit shiny. So you'll see there's a comma after each be bright, be happy. So all I've done is just cut either side of that comma to cut it up. Okay, just to make it into 3 little sentiments, because obviously it's not going to fit along here in one place. Now I'm adding these flat because it's a fold out card. You want the inside to sort of fold as flat as possible really. So I'm just going to add these flat onto my embossed panels. Now then, we need to add our panels to our mechanism. Now hopefully, look at that, beautiful. Now you see, when you open this out, how that lies flat. That's why you need to make sure the point of this mechanism is right in the middle of your card, because if you bring it down the card, when you open it, it's not going to lie flat, and you need it to lie flat to be able to fix these panels. So we're going to place our panels over the top here, and you want to make sure that you get them as near to central as you can, because when you fold it in on itself, if you can see here, I don't know whether you can see this, but these panels actually sit a little proud of the base of the card, and that's because when I put it on the mechanism, I didn't get it 100% in the middle, so it's just a little bit further down the card than I wanted it to be. I don't really think it detracts from the card. I mean, it still stands up, it still looks okay, you know, on display, but if you're going to do it, then it's worth doing it right, isn't it, really? Now then, you only want to put glue in this top quarter here, and then what you're going to do is you're going to fold your card back on itself, so you're gluing this piece of the mechanism to the back of this panel. All right, so I'm going to add my glue here. Use plenty because this is important. You don't want this bit to come apart. And then fold it out and stick it down. All right, and then you're going to fold back this part, and you're going to glue the opposite corner. So you've done top right here, you're going to do bottom left over here. That's what's going to make this panel twist when you open it out. So again, plenty of glue because you don't want it to come apart. Open your panel out and glue it in place. I'm going to turn this over so that I can put as much pressure as possible on this panel. So now you might need to open and close your card a few times to make sure that the mechanism works properly, but it will work beautifully. Okay, now I think that looks really cool. So while that's just setting, I'm just going to go ahead and decorate the front panel. Now I've used the same technique with the embossing folder. I've inked up my debossed side of the folder, placed my card on the embossed side, folded it over, run it through the machine. So I've got the same effect on the front as I have on the inside. So I'm going to pop this down on here. Now I've measured this again. This is 4.5 by 3.5 on the cardstock, and the white card that I embossed is 4 3/8 by 3 3/8. And then I'm going to place this on the middle on the front here. Now I want this to be raised up a little bit. I want a little bit of interest on the front, so I've actually used 3D pads on here. Right, now I'm not measuring this, I'm literally totally eyeballing it, so if it's a little bit off centre, don't shout at me. Okay, so that's my panel added to the front, and then I'm just going to use my stamps to do the sentiment. Now I've stamped it in a contrasting yellow, and for this one I've used Versifying Clair. This one is cheerful, and it is really cheerful. So I've stamped my sentiment with my stamp, and then I've cut it out with the die, and then I've cut out another sentiment just in cardstock, same cardstock that I've used throughout making this card, as a matten layer for the sentiment. And this is my sentiment. Now, as I said to you, this comes in one piece. As you can see, that for you would be joined together. And literally all I've done is just snip between the letters. There is enough room for you to snip between the letters and separate them out. Now I am using glue gel on here because I've finished everything else, so I'm not going to be squashing this. So there you go. There's my twisted pop-out panel card in green. I think I used crushed olive on this, and Shady Lane is the green that I've used, the VersaFine Clair, to stamp the wording on here. But crushed olive is what I've used on the background. And the papers that I've used here are from the A Very Festive Season paper pad from Lisa Horton Crafts. So I think you'll agree that I think they just look quite a smart card to give to somebody that's a little bit different, that's going to look a little bit different on their shelf when they put it out on display. And you can see that mechanism there, how that twists and pops that card in and out. I think that's perfect. So there we go. I'll leave that there for today. Please remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any future content. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.